Another night, and they chose to pick me for such a interesting thing. But I will say that there will be someone else taking over for me. Though, well, I will finish your first story. I would like to read you the entirety, all volumes, of a personal favorite of mine. The other person after me can wait. Well then, what was the book? Here we go. I see. And what page did they leave off on? Let's see. Well, whoever was the last one to use this did not seem to leave behind. Oh, they folded the page. I see. Okay. I'm going to have a word with this individual. Are you all comfortable and ready? You promise? Okay. As day slowly dawned, the young boy was gently awakened. Daybreak's light silhouetted the white mist that shrouded the bamboo forest, of which tales of ghostly foxes were told, and they seemed like horse tails as they billowed this way and that. The woman held his hand, and together they walked toward the place where the sun pierced through the woods. They turned left, then right, passing through undergrowth teeming with insects, clambering over slippery moss-covered stones, scaling down the gorge hidden by the shadows of the bamboo trees. All the way she led him, till they arrived at the exit of the bamboo forest. I still don't know who you are, or where you're from, said the boy, for the previous night's story had yet to leave his mind. The woman turned, and, with her back to the morning light, her eyes shone gold, but she merely smiled and said nothing. Many years later, the boy, who was a boy no longer, would remember that moment, and he would understand. The gap between them was a yawning chasm. His fate was to leave his home and to go to Leeway, to seek the riches the Geo-Archon had bestowed upon him. Hers, then, was to hide herself away from the majestic, kindly gaze of that great lord of Geo, and protect those ancient tales that even she was beginning to forget. So, the boy and the white-clad, golden-eyed woman were parted. He would pack his things and head for that thriving port city, while she stood silently at the boundaries of the bamboo forest, for in her bewitching eyes she seemed to have already foreseen the young man's fate, that someday, when he was old, tired of the sea and the waves of life, he would slowly return to this mountain village, and there he would live out the rest of his days. In the dawn's glow, the boy heard a whining cry that then grew distant. He turned and looked, and there was nothing behind him but a single strand of hair that had come to rest on his shoulder. Ah, there it is. Treasured Tales of the Chokin Shingagyuchi. Volume 1. It is often said that the drawn bow is like the quartered moon, and studying the blade is like a circle of transparent jade. It is said that when Narukami came to her people, she brought with her the knowledge of crafting swords. After thousands of years and hundreds of bountiful harvests, mortal swordsmiths were, and last able to make swords that would please even Narukami herself. Thus did the grand shrine and the shogunates enact this divine ceremony. They collected the greatest swords in the world and offered them up to the shrine, thus naming these blades Goshinto. This ceremony was a very lively one indeed, and the practice persists to the present period. However, there are many behind the curtain of matters concerning the Goshinto that few know of. No famous craftsman merely forgets one blade in one sitting. The greatest of their works are known as shinuchi, and are given a lovely name before being offered to the craftsman's lord or deity. These are not built for taking lives, and are to remain pure. The others are known as kageuchi, and will be given to retainers, for them to use as weapons. These will often be used to shed blood, and will thus be stained with impurity and filth. From the day Narukami Gojen, the first shogun, began her dominion over the land of Inazuma, she was accompanied by her younger twin sisters Shin and Kage. Light and dark they were, mediating and holding court, ordering and giving battles. The younger of the two was named A, and if her name were to be written plainly, it would likely be the word for shadow, which she was in the relation to the first shogun, to whom she would become the successor. Shadow. Interesting. For some reason I'm thinking of the colors red and black. And I don't know why. Huh. Interesting. As most know, only the seven emerged from the wrack and ruin of the war that rolled across the mortal world like a crimson storm. Though the Shadow Shogun was divinely skilled in martial arts and unsurpassed with the blade, she believed herself little more than a warrior with little understanding of mortal hearts. Thus, she chose to give up her bodily form, helping her sister to ascend to the heavenly citadel and obtain dominion over Inazuma. Shortly after, the true shogun, Makoto, set up her shogunate and began to rule over the land. Remembering their bond, she called A's divine will and reforged her body, thus returning her sister to her side once more as a Kagemusha. So, what did you think? Personally, a very good book in my opinion, but it's up for you to decide if you like it or not. What? Oh, I know. I'm on my way. They're really here already. Well, that's great to know. I'll let them know. Thank you for being here. It was great to see you. Oh, but let me say one last thing before I leave. Listener, at the end of all this, I was wondering if you would be so kind as to share a night with me. Is that possible? Or out of the question? Huh? Great. I'll be sure. Oh, hi, listener. It's me. I've been hanging out with Kazuha recently, so Thank you. You want to hold my tail? Well, these things have to be taken care of before we address such a... Okay, fine. Anyway, are you comfortable? A Legend of Sword. Even if Emperor Cher's ambitions are realized, how will anyone benefit from it? Secretary of Defense Pharyngus stared out of the window into space as the galaxies and stars shone gently upon her face, their pale white glow flowing softly and slowly down each other's strand of her hair. She couldn't help but think back to the first time she looked at this ocean. You're embarrassing me, listener. No, General has to be brave. Looked out at this ocean of stars through this very window, but she no longer remembered the sense of awe she felt back then. Even her homeland, now hundreds of light years away, had long since become faded and distorted in her memories whenever they surfaced in her dreams. Forgive me for speaking out of place, Your Highness, but this war has been dragging on for far too long. We've battled through countless constellations, wiped out tens of millions of lives in all sorts of devious ways, and made ourselves viceroys and envoys of every obscure constellation we came across, all in an effort to make Emperor Cher's dreams a reality. But what has his grand vision brought us? One of misfortune after another, and an ever-growing number of enemies. They're in every corner of the galaxy now. It's just a matter of time before they swallow us up. My brother's vision is for an empire that will rule for all eternity, one where there is no fear, and where people do not lack for anything. The fate of the many will no longer be dictated by the few. No one will enjoy a higher status than anyone else, and even incompetence will no longer be seen as a crime. And so, it is inevitable that those who cannot comprehend this grand vision are doomed to be swept aside in their fate. Princess Gopatha, shook her head and spoke with a gentle yet cold tone. It seems as if the intergalactic anti-guerrilla war had robbed her of more than just one of her eyes and one of her arms, because when Pharyngus looked at her, she did not see the joyful young woman she once knew. I trust in brother's decision. He would not act out of more self-interest. So please, even if, even though it is you, don't say such things again in the future. Don't speak words that sow doubt. Well, I can promise, even if I'm not a good storyteller, I'm still here to protect you. Oh. No, don't scratch behind my ear. I'm a general and need to be dignified. Kazuha is so much better at this than I am. Why did he drag me into this?